So this is the code connector that we created yesterday. And we called it WCMWireSoutbound. And we had run this integration. We had created the output as an XML file. We went through that in our yesterday session. Now, if you review that file, if you see that this was our output file, let me just make it a little bit bigger. If you look at this output file, so between this worker and this end worker tag, you had all the information about a particular worker. For example, Logan McNeil. You had all the information about this worker between these worker tags. Now look at the gender field. The gender says female. And similarly, if you look at the next worker, which is Steve Morgan, the gender is male. So what if, instead of female and male, we want the values to be F and M, and so on? So very easily we will be able to map these values into something else. So that's what we are going to do first. So we are going to map these values. And we are going to see how easily we are going to get some alternate values. So we'll go back to our integration. And you see, there is something called integration maps. In integration maps, there are certain fields for which we can map it to something else. We can take the values in Workday and we can have a corresponding mapping to a different value. So fields like, let me scroll from the top fields like gender, this is what we are going to do. Marital status, religion, disability, ethnicity, citizenship status, military service status. These are some of the fields that can be mapped. National ID type, government ID type, visa, passport, custom ID. These are some of the values that can be mapped to an alternate value. Why not first name or last name? Why can't we map those fields into different parameters? Any idea? Yeah, they don't have any default values. Number 1. And number 2 is the fields that you see here in the map. They have a predefined set of values. For example, gender. There are only a predefined set of genders. Marital status. There are only a handful of marital statuses based on the country and based on the local laws. But what about, let's say, the first name? Are there only a fixed number of first names? No, right, there can be any. I mean, the first name can be anything. There are hundreds and thousands of different combinations possible for the first name. So it is not possible to map those values into something. On the other hand, if it is just like the first name or the last, if it's a gender or marital status, citizenship type, those things are predefined. So we can map it to something else. So let me show you how to map it. So let's say, instead of female, we want F. And for male, we want M. So let's go there and we go to Integration System. Configure Integration Maps. Click on that. And we have to scroll down till we find the value for gender, the map that you want. So you click on Add Row. And there you select the value. So you have 3 possible options for gender: female, male, and not declared, so choose female. And choose the alternate output that you want. So let's say in the output, you want it as f. Now, if you are doing for one value, remember that you have to do for all the others as well. Otherwise, if for some worker, if it is, let's say if it is M and you have, if it is male and you have not defined that in the mapping, then it will not work. It will give you an error. So, and then let's do it for the other worker as well, for the other type. So it is not declared. And for not declared, let's put it as NA. So this is how we do the mapping. Now let's run this integration one more time. So I go to the related actions. We go to integration and launch, and we will see a very interesting thing here. Yesterday, we launched this integration once. Now, if you look at the as of entry moment and the effective date, they are today's date. But what about the last successful as of entry moment? Because that is when we last launched the integration successfully. So you see, it automatically populates to yesterday's date and yesterday's time. This was the time and date that we last launched the integration. Now, I don't think we had a lot of workers who were hired between these two dates. But anyway, let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. Let's see if we get any workers. But if there are no changes in the system between these two dates, then what will happen? The output will be 0 workers. So let's find out how many workers were there. So we'll look at the messages. Alright, so it is doing something. Still nothing in the messages. Alright, okay, just for your information, the core connector worker uses the GetWorkers web service to get all the information. So it is GetWorkers. Just like we had the Hire Employee web service that we used for our EIB, so this core connector worker or CCW uses the GetWorkers web service to get the worker information from Workday. Right, this is what it has. This is how it does it. It uses the GetWorkers web service. Okay, let's see if it is. Oh, we have a message. 356 workers, okay. So somebody changed all those workers? Is it between yesterday and today? So then, oh, only data audit for 6 workers with data changes. So there were 356 workers that it is looking for in the eligibility criteria, and only 6 workers had data changes. That's awesome. That means our change detection is working. And if I look at the messages, you see it created the output document for 6 workers. But I don't know if any of those workers will have a gender or not. So let's look at the output files. So, since we have some changes, let's look at the data changes autumn. Alright, I will save this file. Let's look at the diagnostic autumn as well. Okay, and let's also choose the output file. Alright, let's use the output file as well. Output file XML. And let's see what are the workers that are included there. But first let's look at the data changes, AutoFTML. This will be very, very important for us to identify which are the workers who are hired in the system. So, for example, somebody has hired G.K. Olivia Booth. So if you click on that, it tells you what happened. So eligibility criteria is true. Right. First name is G.K. Olivia. Last name? And then the email address. Hire date, 1st of May. The position, compensation and additional information. Can you see something carefully? Like you also did this assignment right where you hired Olivia Booth. What are the fields that are included in this particular data changes audit? Did we enter only these values? What about the supervisory organization? What about the other values? Why aren't they included in this data changes audit? Why only these fields?